We're trying so hard in our lives to fit in. We try to fit into certain groups, certain frats, certain sororities, you know, among certain friends, yet the people we idolize are the ones that stand out. But when you're prepared, there is no fear. There is no fear of failure, okay? Because even if you've walked out of something and you feel like you failed at it, your preparation is so strong that you're gonna take that failure and turn it into the outcome you desire. And most people stop at failure, okay? We've all failed at things. I'm gonna continue to fail at stuff, right? It's the most powerful tool you can use, but it all depends on how you use it. You know, we talk about it in Relentless, okay? A scalpel, okay? In the hands of an individual, it can do unbelievable damage. In the hands of a professional, of a doctor, it saves lives. So it's the same thing with failure. It's how you use it. It's that drive inside of you, okay? It's what we talk about, the dark side. The dark side is filled with failure, but it's the fuel that burns you like something that's never burned inside you before.
You know, there's a principle from my book where I talk about, from all the people I've interviewed, they always have some type of adversity that they turn into their advantage.
Right.
And that's what you did.
Yeah.
You had this adversity.
You're like the alchemist of everything, but especially adversity.
That's it.
You know, and I think that's a trait amongst all successful people. I think if you see or talk to or get in a conversation deep enough with somebody who's actually built something of their life, they're going to be able to tell you something that was terrible, and they're going to be able to show you how they saw it as an advantage. And I think that's such a huge key. You know, how many things do we hear about from the average Joe that, you know, you or I or any of these other guys could look at and be like, wait, dude, this is actually a good thing if you look at it this way. They're like, no, it's terrible.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay.
If you ask anyone who's made a difference in the world, or anyone who's kind of a massive business, any great athlete, whatever it may be, scientist, doctor, it doesn't matter who it is, if they're at the top of their game, they've gone through some extreme adversity some point in their life.
Right.
Maybe it was when they were 8, maybe it was when they're 28,
right.
Maybe it was when they're 48.
Right.
But they've gone through something extreme that they've had to overcome.
Right. And dude, those things are the things that are going to teach you what to do when things go wrong, how to react. They're going to give you your strength. They're going to give you your competitive advantage. And people spend so much time trying to seek the comfort that society tells us we have to have, right? They say, oh, well, get a safe job and marry and have 2.5 kids and do all this shit that like is considered safe. And people seek the path of least resistance. And by doing that, they avoid all these things that could potentially end up making them so much more fulfilled, impactful, and all the great things that, you know, make people quote unquote successful, not just financially, but in any area.
Right.
You know?
There are positives in every situation that we go through. And even in the entrepreneurial world, we're trained. I think that's another thing that's really benefited me is like failure. I think it's more of our egos that we don't want to say like failure exists. It's like, no, failure doesn't exist. It's a learning moment. No, you screwed up, you failed. Like, let's just own that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And yes, you should learn from those failures. But the things that I learned through the abuse that I went through were incredibly powerful. I mean, my ability to withstand life, like, good luck knocking me down. Like that's not an ego or a cocky thing. It's just like, good luck. And what's cool is I didn't know any of this stuff when I was a kid until I was about 16, 17. I started like reading encyclopedias on the human body and mind. But even then we had no clue. And now like all this science is coming out about energy and positive and negative and chemical hormones being stored in the brain and like memories actually releasing endorphins, like all this stuff's happening. And it's like, wow, cool. Like the monks had something. Like, you know, it's like we're like going and proving these very, 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 very ancient rituals to be scientifically like accurate. And who knew where they got their inspiration? But regardless, we're now proving that this rewriting of the story, this telling, you know, yourself and believing something different literally changes the chemical makeup in your body, which releases different hormones and different endorphins, which then allows you to have a different, you know, complete outlook. If you're unconfident, you don't feel sexy and you don't feel this way, that's how you're going to come across. Not because that's what you really maybe are with skin and, you know, skin and all that, but that's the chemicals that you're releasing.
All right, success mindset number 3. I don't run from mistakes, I learn from them. Oh, man, this is the great killer of dreams. The idea that making a mistake is a mistake. Think about this for a minute. Can you really think of one invention? Don't tell me, just try to think of it. Think of one invention that's been made without a series of potentially catastrophic mistakes, mishaps, or misfires leading to that idea being thrust out into the world. Mistakes are the necessary requirement in order to improve oneself, in order to improve one's business, in order to improve your thoughts. You have to be mistaken in order to eventually be corrected. A lot of us see these mistakes as bruises to our ego, like I made this mistake, so it means this about me, or like I did this wrong, so I'm not going to do this other thing right. We take a lot of ownership for these mistakes, and then at the same time, when we end up doing well, sometimes we don't attribute that to ourselves. We say, oh, well, that was lucky, or oh, this other person helped me. We have a hard time attributing where our success comes from and why we fail. But what you need to understand is that your mistakes aren't you. Your mistakes are singular events that, in the end, don't really mean anything. But what they can do for you is they can teach you. Mistakes can teach you what you're doing wrong, obviously, but mistakes can also teach you what you're doing right. And when you tune in to the mistakes that you're making, you can chart a path that avoids them and also moves towards the things that you want. But you have to be open to learning from them first. And once you are, it's going to be much easier to navigate the world in a way that makes sense to you and also gets you the results that you want. Successful people know that mistakes are essential to moving forward, and sometimes they even seek out mistakes, right? This is a contrarian way of thinking. They seek out mistakes in order to get success faster because they know that every mistake they make now is one mistake they won't make later. In fact, when I was interviewing the founders of Barefoot Wine, which is one of the biggest wine brands in the world, they said that they actually kept a journal of all the mistakes they made and wrote them down so they'd never make them again. And you can bet by the end of their careers, that journal was full of things that they did once, maybe twice, but that once they eliminated those things from their routine, well, they were just left with a flawless procedure. So look for the mistakes and learn from them, but never be scared of them. Never feel bad if you make them, because you're supposed to be making them. That's the point.
One of the great secrets in life to becoming successful, whether it's in a business, whether it's working with someone or for someone or in your own personal life, and I learned this selling encyclopedias door to door in my early 20s, is be prepared in life for a lot of rejection. Because if you're prepared for a lot of rejection and it comes, you don't get turned off, you don't get disappointed, like, well, I'm not gonna do this anymore, no one thinks it's a good idea. It's like I say selling encyclopedias, knock on 100 doors, they slam them in your face. You must be just as enthusiastic on door number 101 as door number 1. Be prepared for a lot of rejection. Whether it's in their personal life, that someone says, you're too old, you're too fat, you're too young, you're not gonna do anything other than yes. You've got holes in your nose, you got things coming out your ears. Whatever is other than yes, this is wonderful, realize that's gonna happen in life. As soon as people know that, when something goes wrong, they look at a piece of paper, oh yeah, that reminds me. Sometimes you don't know what the hell to do. You're just out there doing it, and you just kind of learn from your own experience or go with whatever your heart tells you to do. And if something goes wrong, you ask somebody, God, here's what I said, was that right? You just kind of improve yourself. But many times if you're there, you don't have an answer, go with your heart. Give an answer, just say, I really don't know, but I'm gonna find out and I'm gonna get back to you.
There are two kinds of wounds. There's the wound that makes you think you're less than others, and there's the wound that makes you think you're better than others. And the less than others, at least they know they have something to work toward or learn. The ones who are there have nothing to learn, and it's like the biggest tragedy because they just live their lives in the dark, thinking everything they do is great and ignoring all the results. So there's probably something to be said positive for low self-esteem. I would probably say it's a combination of that, you know, the growth mindset idea, and also just learning from your experiences that doing something and failing and letting that be a learning lesson. So letting the failure be a learning lesson, okay, I'm doing something wrong. Humility is the most important thing you can have for change, if you really want to have a big change. Like a lot of people come just to hear what they already want to hear. Like codify this into 5 principles I can then apply to my life. You know, your codify is the word, and I'll codify some self-awareness for you. Yeah. But humility, to recognize, you know, what got you here won't get you there, as the saying goes, right? And to say at some point, if you really want to change and are really stuck, I know nothing, I'm letting go of everything, and I'm sort of gonna relearn as with a childlike mind. Sometimes you're gonna have anxiety, sometimes you're gonna have fear. Like we have many emotions, sometimes you're gonna, and if you feel like I need to be happy all the time, when you're not happy, you're going to feel like something's off. So to me, one of my goals is acceptance. So I'm trying to reach a place of acceptance in my life. So, but what I think of it is this, and someone said it in The Truth, which is, you're born pure and fresh and vulnerable and spontaneous and in the moment, and slowly through life experiences and your caregivers, you get loaded with a lot of baggage. And I think one of the goals of life is, how much of that baggage can you cut away before you leave this planet?
You want to think of your journey like, it's almost like you see that light at the end of the tunnel, but you also want to think of it like a narrow road. You want to think of success as a narrow road. So you are walking that line of success, but you have a more focused set of behaviors than most people, and you are constantly course correcting. So you're learning from where you fucked up, and you're taking the lesson and then course correcting again and again and again and again. And you know who I actually kind of learned it from? It was interesting. I learned it from watching Kobe Bryant win a championship against Boston 2 years ago. Because every game that the Lakers would play, whenever they would lose, they would always talk about the little lessons that they got from the loss and about how they had the ultimate vision of the championship and how they needed it to come together for the championship.
With respect to failure, it's terrible, but necessary. If you are going to try something hard, if you're putting yourself out there in some way, there are going to be times where you screw up or you don't succeed. Or there are times where you do everything right and you still don't succeed. But that's not just true of politics or running a non-for-profit. That's true. Some of you talked about being entrepreneurial. If you're starting a clothing line, that's a cutthroat business. I'm sure I have every confidence, Ayana, that you're going to succeed at some point, but you'll go through some failures. And I think that the most important thing, and this is a little bit of a cliche, but sometimes cliches are true, is to learn from those failures and to have a sense of resilience and be able to examine, what is it that I did not succeed at? Why didn't I succeed? And what do I need to do better? If you're focused on giving of yourself to accomplish something, then even when you fail at a particular objective, you're still succeeding in learning about how you can accomplish those goals.